Where does the emotion in a song come from? Is it the lyrics, the harmonies, the performance? Basically, from the moment we grow ears, we begin our development of how we perceive emotion in music, continuing that development as more and more music is exposed to our brains. Cultural influences play a big role in what music we listen to and how we associate emotions with each musical experience. So if you're like me, who grew up religiously watching Pixar films, I would bet you cry every time you hear a bittersweet piano, or get goosebumps of excitement from hearing jazz brass wail on high notes. Music psychologists have often studied which emotions are triggered by music, as well as what structural factors in music help contribute to the perceived emotional expression. It is argued that the emotion experienced from music is a multiplicative function of structural features, performance features, listener features, and contextual features of the piece. Structural features are the specific musical tools like tempo, mode, loudness, and melody that are used to trigger specific emotions. Like how this song is fast in a major key to elicit happiness.
I don't know why, but today seems like it's gonna be a great day.
Or how this song is slow in a minor key to elicit sadness.
I've come to talk with you again.
Performance features referring to the manner in which a piece of music is executed by the performers. Listener features referring to the individual and social identity of the listener.
Human music. I like it.
And contextual features take into account the location and the particular occasion of the performance, such as a funeral or a wedding.
Close my eyes, only for a moment, and the moment's gone.
So with the 2018 Oscars coming up, in the Best Song category, Remember Me from Pixar's Coco and This Is Me from The Greatest Showman are the two frontrunners. These two songs share plenty of commonalities. They both serve as the sort of anthem and emotional peak of their respected films. They are both written by Oscar-winning composers, and something about each song brings tears to audiences' eyes everywhere. But upon listening to both, we know that these songs are vastly different and also trigger very different emotional reaction. Music from films do their best to connect listeners with other emotional sources, where we associate particular sounds to previous soundtracks from memory. This effect sweeps us away into emotions because of prior expectations. So when we listen to This Is Me, we might associate it with other self-empowerment pop anthems. Or when we listen to Remember Me, our association goes back to other songs connected to a platonic love story. Maybe between a nanny and her children.
Is fast asleep.
Or even a master and his successor. I want to analyze and discuss the emotional values of Remember Me compared to This Is Me, while briefly relating the context of the song to each film's narrative and themes. Let's start by looking at The Greatest Showman. This film, based extremely loosely off the real life of P.T. Barnum, tells its story utilizing contemporary Broadway-style musical numbers. Within the structure of a musical-styled film, those songs do a good job of being essential to the narrative by including exclusive narrative context in each number. Basically, if you remove a song like The Other Side, then Barnum and Carlyle never become partners because the entire transaction takes place in song form. On the character development side, the show-stopping This Is Me is a direct reaction to the story's themes and gives the audience insight into the emotions of the circus performers. This Is Me, written by rising composers Pasek and Paul, is performed at about the halfway point of the film. It's a song that captures the journey of the cast, moving from unloved human oddities to stars of the stage, creating a perfect moment of self-acceptance. With every power ballad, intense vocals are necessary to soar over the massive orchestration that this song produces. And with singer and actress Kayla Settle, this song is taken into a new atmosphere. Kayla has the perfect power and emotion to deliver the message of the entire film through this song. Not only did this song really let Kayla bring forth who she is, but anyone who sings this song feels like they can break their shell and be confident in themselves as well. Her vocals are painfully vulnerable in the first verse. Then as soon as she reaches the final chorus, she's spirited and courageous. Since this musical is in the style of contemporary pop, This Is Me's structural form is verse, bridge, chorus. This structure has been employed by pop songs since the 1960s. The reason this occurs so often in pop music is because it puts the emphasis on the chorus. So when the choir comes in for the final time with "Look out, 'cause here I come. Look out, 'cause here I come. I'm marching out to the beat of drum," in a celebratorious D major, it feels super satisfying. This song hits all the power ballad cliches. A huge crescendo, followed by a brief diminuendo before the final chorus, starting with piano and some light strings in the orchestration, then adding choir, then a full orchestra. But the biggest cliche is that this is a 4-chord song. Here's the harmonic analysis of This Is Me. All in the key of D major, the song cycles through 3 patterns of these chords. One for the verse, one for the bridge, and one for the chorus. These are typical pop music looping patterns that create a satisfying resolution every 12 seconds. Basically, our minds crave the accessibility of resolutions in music rather than having the patience to wait for music to develop. Thus, why contemporary pop composers like Pasek and Paul utilize this technique in their music. Many other powerful pop songs have utilized the same progression. And I'm not cherry picking. A lot of pop songs use this progression. And if you were to ask me whether or not creating an upbeat pop-filled hit with 4 chords and vague lyrics about reaching for the stars is just a cheap cop-out of actual good storytelling and narrative structure, I would say yes. Yes, it is. But here's the thing. Outside the world of music analysis, this song simply brings people together. It takes you on a sort of emotional journey that makes people feel okay about themselves and to talk about their emotions. This isn't something that is necessarily written into the song itself. More so, it was the real emotion of Kayla Settle expressing her voice that makes this song so heartwarming. So let's relate all this back to the structural features we discussed earlier. Tempo-wise, this song definitely is upbeat in order to build excitement. This Is Me is written in D major, which is historically the key of triumph and victory rejoicing. And because empowerment songs are generally in major modes, they feel positive. As for loudness, the gradual build in dynamics for intensity and growing orchestration makes the song loud, big, and it's the performance feature of Kayla's voice that makes up for the unoriginality of the melodic structure. Harmonies and melodies slowly build into one powerful chorus, reminiscent of any power ballad you'll listen to. In fact, remember this self-empowerment power ballad that won the Oscar not too long ago? And on this point, to briefly compare Let It Go to This Is Me, they both follow the same heavy power ballad cliches, but Let It Go is way more harmonically interesting, as it modulates through different keys, mirroring Elsa's contemplation on her actions as she further discovers herself within the song, eventually showing growth and confidence, no longer hiding her flaws. And in relation to the music of Frozen, the genius behind Let It Go was none other than Robert Lopez and Kristen Anderson Lopez, who not so coincidentally wrote the next song we're going to talk about.
Remember me.
Coco is nothing short of breathtaking. The movie urges us to explore questions of life, death, and family through a heartwarming narrative and a gorgeous soundtrack. Music plays a pivotal role in the story itself, which follows Miguel, who aspires to become a musician despite his family's history of resentment towards music. Remember Me recurs several times throughout the film, with each rendition being stylistically different and changing our perspective of the piece as the narrative evolves. The song was written by Lopez in order to emulate popular Mexican music from earlier in the 20th century, specifically the bolero ranchero style, which would have been sung by Mexican artists like Jorge Negrete and Pedro Infante.
Hay que olvidar lo pasado si la culpable es la suerte.
The variation of Remember Me that we are going to focus on is the lullaby version, as it is the version that most encapsulates the themes of Coco and is definitely the emotional centerpiece. Unlike This Is Me, Remember Me is harmonically very complex, hence why I will be focusing more on the music theory applied to this piece rather than other outside factors. From the get-go, we hear the first chord, C, which roots our ears in the world of C major, but already there's a mysterious melancholy that lingers in the second chord. This chord, F minor over A flat, is an example of mode mixture. Mode mixture is when the chord is taken from the closely related key. So because this song is introduced in the key of C major, Western culture has adapted our ear to believe that chords in this song will fall under a set of diatonic chords that are built off the roots of the C major scale. As you can see, F minor isn't on this list, thus why the chord resonates less satisfyingly in a major key. But this seemingly random chord works. Why? F minor belongs in the parallel key of C major, which is C minor. The third of the F minor chord, A flat, is placed in the bass as Robert Lopez wants to showcase that this is a borrowed chord. The use of the minor 4 chord in a major key is popular with pop songs that strive for a heart-tugging nature. Famously, Paul McCartney refers to this minor 4 chord as the normal thing to do. Again, in measure 4, Robert Lopez takes the opportunity to borrow the chord B flat from the Mixolydian mode. Because of this, we don't have a feeling of our home in C major, just like how Hector is not home with his family. This then leads us to a great moment of tension created by a series of secondary dominant chords. Well, the easiest way to create tension and release is by resolving a dominant chord with a tonic chord. For example, in the key of C major, the tonic chord is C and the dominant chord would be G. There is a natural satisfying resolution when the G chord is played leading into the C. This feeling of resolution is a result of the years of cultural ear conditioning that we discussed earlier. Secondary dominance simply takes the same kind of feeling of tension and resolution introduced in a dominant and tonic resolution and applies it to other chords in the same key. So still looking at the fourth measure here, we see that the B flat chord is followed by an E7 chord. We know that an E7 chord is not diatonic in the key of C major, but it is dominant of A minor. And because the next chord is an A minor 7 chord, that's how we know that this is a secondary dominant. This new dominant to tonic resolution tonicizes the A minor 7, which means that we're kind of getting the feeling like we're in the key of A minor now. But don't get too comfortable here yet. The next 3 chords are G minor, C7, and then F major 7, which don't really function in the key of A minor or C major. Instead, we are led astray again into hearing the key of F, with the G minor chord functioning as a subdominant and C7 the dominant, and then F being the new key tonicized. But wait! Our ears are deceived again! Because now we have a D7 chord functioning as a secondary dominant for the following G chord, then the G chord functioning as the dominant of the C chord to start the second verse, thus retonicizing C major, our home key. Just know that Robert Lopez is adding all of these interesting colors to the song, but in reality we're just looking at an extended version of the same 6-4-5-1 progression that we saw earlier. Crazy, huh? This perfectly accompanies the emotional ambiguity of the song, which feels both hopeful and defeated, warm yet lonely. Looking at the lyrics as well, we feel the bittersweet chords during the exact moments of true heartbreak that Hector feels when he has to leave his daughter. And then every time he says, "Remember me," we are back in our home of C, because as long as Coco remembers Hector, he will always be at home in her heart. So, looking at the structural elements that make this song emotional. For tempo, especially compared to the upbeat pop version that Ernesto de la Cruz sings, this song is much slower to create a feeling of sadness and serenity, hence why this is a lullaby. Analyzing mode here is tricky because it is a sad song technically written in a major mode, and it is because of all the modal mixing that truly tonalize a bittersweet moment. It's also interesting to note that C major is the key of innocence and naivety common in music for children, while C minor is a key that represents a declaration of unhappy love and a lovesick soul. And through mixing the two keys, Lopez encapsulates the moment of a father's love for his daughter as he leaves her to achieve his dream. As for loudness, this song is a lullaby, totally juxtaposing the dynamics of This Is Me, because the whole piece poses a tender quality. The emotional peaks of this song are expressed through the melody. Aside from all the beautiful harmonies, the melody itself is designed to never go too far out of the range of the singer so that no belting is necessary. This piece jumps and falls in the right emotional ways, while also following the bolero ranchero traditional ways of writing. Alright, so in the end, what's the point? Obviously, both songs fill the requirements to spark an emotional reaction in the listener, so does the harmonic or structural integrity of a piece make it better? In the end, it's all subjective. I think my bias comes out for which song I'm rooting for win this year's Academy Award. But let's be real, both songs inhabit greatness in their own right, and so do all the other songs that are currently up for the Oscar. I definitely recommend listening to the other Best Original Song nominees, for they also inhabit great emotional value. Just know that in the end, there are facts when it comes to music analysis, but the way a piece affects you emotionally is 100% your opinion, and nobody can tell you that your way of perceiving a piece of music is incorrect. The beauty in film music is having a visual and audible cue to let your emotions out. So keep listening and keep crying during beautiful music.